Christopher Turcott. Final ethics assignment. I'll be answering 6 of my own written questions. Question 1. Do racist and offensive jokes in our society promote a lack of tolerance? Personally, I find that it does not promote a lack of tolerance. The reasons being, a lack of tolerance is learned and taught through the people around a child, such as their parents, when that child is growing up. A racist or offensive joke being said here or there as a kid is growing up, or even in the teen or adult years, won't change the way they think about a certain religion, group, or race. Jokes are meant to be taken lightly, and the only people being offended by those jokes are the ones who are the ethnic groups or religious groups that are actually being targeted by those jokes. And usually, the only people that take the message of those jokes to heart are the only people who truly believe what that joke is saying, such as if someone says a racist joke like, "Oh, what do you call a car with a white man and a black man in it? A squad car," then the only people who would truly take that message to heart are the ones who are racist against African Americans, and the only people who would most likely get offended by this joke are African Americans, because this joke is not true. Second, did common courtesy change for better or for worse, as in the way people used to have standard manners in society, such as holding doors, saying please and thank you, giving old people or pregnant women their seats? Personally, I find that common courtesy did change for the worse, in the way that it's far less present in today's society. I'll give a personal example as a testament to this. One day my dad was driving me to school, and I saw a bunch of people waiting at a bus stop. They're all around 20, 30 years old, and they were sitting on the bench in the little area where you wait for the bus. And there was an old man with a cane standing there. But as I looked on, as I waited for the traffic to continue, I noticed that no one was getting up to offer the old man a seat, even though he clearly needed it more than the others did. Also, you observe it in teens these days. If you would look back into the 1960s and 1970s, maybe even 1940s, teenagers our age back then had a lot more manners than teenagers nowadays have. Say I were to hold the door for someone, they would say, okay, thanks. Whereas back then they would say, thank you. Or if someone asks you to pass them something, they'll say, hey, can you give this to me? And when you do it, they'll may not even remember to thank you. Whereas back then they would say, may I please have whatever they want. And then when you give it to them, they'd say, thank you. Third question. Do the elderly show the same quantity and quality of acceptance at the outreach placement as our generation does today? Well, personally, it depends on the outreach placement that you're at. At my outreach placement, I've never had any problems with anyone saying something racist or offensive or prejudiced against anyone else. And I do believe that this is in fact because a large part of the workforce at my outreach placement is in fact Asian descent or African American descent, and so uh, they've probably gotten used to having a variety of cultures there. But I have heard at different outreach placements stories from my friends of them saying that this person said X thing about Jewish people, or this person said X thing about African Americans or their skin color. And so, at my outreach placement, I do believe that they show a lot of tolerance as we would today, but other outreach placements, they're a bit lacking in their tolerance compared to teens today. Fourth question. Is there a difference in the way we perceive justice compared to the way the elderly perceive it? Yes. The answer to this question is yes. There's definitely a very big gap between the way we perceive justice and the elderly perceive justice. The way, personally, the way I find the elderly perceive justice, it's more like, uh, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. As we've noticed in Canada, the death penalty, for example, is no longer in effect. But most of the elderly people I've talked to um, have have said things such as the death penalty should still be in place, and that they disagree with that ruling. Even though by the vote that was taken to remove it, a large part of the modern Canadian population find that the death penalty is a bit excessive, and therefore it was removed from effect. Also, from my own personal experiences with family members and stuff, uh, who are older in their 70s and 80s, they would also do things such as if I was being mean to my sister and I would fall on the playground and get hurt, they would tell me, well, it's basically karma. You were mean to your sister, and now you're being punished. And then they would make me go take care of my niece. That would be scraped. Whereas someone who's, I don't know, 20 years old or 30 years old today might just think, oh, I need to go help this little kid who just fell off and scraped his knee. So people these days, I find, have become a lot softer compared to the elderly folk who perceive justice as a lot harsher thing. Fifth question: has technology and social media taken away from the values in our society, such as respect, discipline, etc.? Personally, I don't find that it has. What I find has actually taken away from the values in our society, such as respect and discipline, have been the different parenting styles over the years, which could also weave into the last question of how do the elderly perceive justice. And I'll say why. A lot of people would think, oh, well, technology has actually influenced kids to become more disrespectful and to be less disciplined. But in fact, it hasn't. Maybe it might encourage it, but that last barrier that will always stop a kid or teenager or whoever is being respectful or undisciplined, it's always the parents or the person in charge or guardian who's in charge of that person or kid who will always be the the iron fist, the one who needs to make sure that the discipline is put in place. And I think it's actually the different ways that parenting styles have been changed over the years. You know, less beatings and spankings and more going to the corner type stuff that's changed society and the way kids are today to become more disrespectful and less disciplined. And for the sixth and final question, should kids under 16 years old have access to assisted suicide? So, in Quebec society today, there's a major debate on whether kids under a certain age should be allowed to have l'aide médicale à mourir, which is assisted suicide, in case they're in a lot of pain or have certain diseases. And a lot of people say no to this because the doctors don't want to kill people. They think helping people is saving them and curing them of their disease. And other people say, well, no, it's actually them making their patient feel better by whatever means necessary. And a lot of people are just saying, well, so you should never commit suicide, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a lot of religious values that enter it, such as a lot of Christian values that say you should not commit suicide. And there is a large population of Quebec who is actually Christian and Catholic who do believe this. And then this also enters the play of the debate. Now, personally, I do believe kids under 16 years old should have access to assisted suicide because if someone ever gets to the point, even under that age, where they have to think of death would be better than this, even though people older think, oh, well, they don't understand death. If you get to the point of contemplating it, it's probably because you do understand what death is. Because no matter what age you are, death is always a never present thing. That no matter what age you are, you'll always understand it consciously or subconsciously that death is bad. But if you, but say a 6-year-old says, I want to die, you don't need to give him a whole speech on that, what death is. Because A, no one could really give that speech, and B, he's probably in enough pain to know that that would be better than having to suffer through whatever illness he has. And if it is ever put into place where someone 16 or younger um, should be allowed to have access to this, then if they really want to, you could try to have a presentation on what death is to make them truly understand. But I don't see why not. I don't see why kids who are in pain and suffering through diseases or that may cause them intense pain, such as cancer or certain diseases that make them become a vegetable, where they're paralyzed in their entire body. Why should they have to suffer through a life that they don't really want, simply because other people find that they should? Well, thank you for listening to the answers to my question. That is all for now.